Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The British claimed that there were two nations living in India and these two nations could not live in one state. And in response to this idea, the idea of Pakistan was born, which led to the partition of India. Was the two-nation theory valid? Let's take a look. The British claimed that the Muslims and Hindus constituted two different nations and they could not live in one state, and therefore India would have to be divided. However, the fact that the British ruled India over the Muslims and the Hindus without having to divide the state, this was important to question. The fact is that the Muslims ruled over India for hundreds of years with Islam as a minority, as they did over Spain for hundreds of years as a minority over Muslims and non-Muslims, and this is the case of many lands that were opened up to Islam in the early years. Muslims ruled in many cases as a minority over a majority non-Muslims with Islam. So the norm is that Islam ruled over a diverse population, over Muslims and non-Muslims in Africa, Asia and Europe. So outside the heartland of Islam in Arabia, Islam never ruled over only Muslims anywhere. So this two-nation theory that Islam is not capable of ruling over non-Muslims is a deception. So why was the two-nation theory proposed? It's because when the British came to India, they removed Islam as the governing system. And when they left, they did not want Islam to return. So the only option on the table for post-colonial India was a democratic secular solution. So with democracy as the only option in post-colonial India, the Muslims had a fear of Hindu nationalism, which drove them to accepting the two-nation theory. So was the two-nation theory wrong? In a word, yes. As Muslims, we don't believe in two nations. We believe that Islam came for all people for all times. The Prophet ﷺ came as rahmatul lil alamin for all the people. So all the people that exist from his time until the end of time are his ummah. Whether they believe in him or not, they are still his ummah. Just like Lut alayhi salam was sent to a people, even those people that didn't believe in him were still called Qawm-e-Lut, the people of Lut. So all the people that exist today are part of that ummah that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to with his message. So the way to practically invite non-Muslims to Islam was for Muslims to establish Islam, establish the justice and the security of Islam, so that the non-Muslims could practically see the example of Islam. They were given security and protection and they were allowed to practice their religion. But Islam had been delivered to them and the Muslims had fulfilled their responsibility of delivering Islam to non-Muslims. So those non-Muslims that live under Islam on the Day of Judgment, they will have no excuse as to why they did not accept Islam. And we as Muslims would have fulfilled our responsibility to them of delivering Islam to them. Islam can accommodate non-Muslims, but Muslims can never be accommodated by non-Islam. So the Hindus of India lived under Islam for hundreds of years. The Christians of Europe lived under Islam for hundreds of years. And the Jews of Spain lived under Islam for hundreds of years. Islam protected them and allowed them to practice their religion. However, Muslims that live in Palestine or India or Europe today, we are not granted that same security and protection that we granted them. We can accommodate them, but they can't accommodate us. And Muslims in Europe today are considered as second-class citizens. So what about Pakistan? Darul Islam is not for a particular ethnic group. Darul Islam is not only for Muslims, and Darul Islam is not only for a particular land. Darul Islam is the home of Islam. Islam which secures the rights of the poor and the rich, and Islam that protects the strong and the weak. Darul Islam, or the Islamic State, is what Islam looks like when the rules of the Sharia are given life. It is the practical manifestation of Islam. And Pakistan still has the potential to achieve this. It still has the potential to honor the sacrifices of millions of people that left India in the hope of establishing an Islamic government. Pakistan can still be the start of the promised second Khilafah Rashida by taking leadership of the Muslim world. The only thing stopping Pakistan is the tiny elite besotted with the West, who accept subservience to the West and allow them to interfere in its affairs. It is they who stop Pakistan from achieving the leadership of the Islamic Ummah and fulfilling the destiny so many people hoped for. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.